My guest today on the First Time Storytelling broadcast is Marek Zmysłowski. He is a Polish-born entrepreneur and executive. He focuses on online business and renewable energy. He's passionate about frontier and emerging markets. He is also the best-selling author of Chasing Black Unicorns, which I listened to the audiobook for Chasing Black Unicorns. And if you're out there and you are an entrepreneur, you don't need to be an entrepreneur, but especially if you are an entrepreneur, you must get this book because Marek has had the craziest entrepreneurial journey ever, to include being a wanted man by Interpol and finding himself in jail. So there's not a whole lot of entrepreneurs whose journey get them thrown in jail, unless they're doing illegal things, which he was not. So you really do
Thanks for mentioning this. Yes.
You really do need to get the book and listen to the story, and you'll learn a lot about the entrepreneurial journey and a lot about working in the continent of Africa. Speaking of, he is also the founder of the Maya Foundation, which is based in Nigeria. And he is here to share the story of the first time starting a foundation. Welcome to the broadcast.
What an introduction. Thank you so much. And great to be here.
All right. So let's kick things off with, let's frame your story to, what was the inspiration and the drive for wanting to start a foundation? What was happening that you felt that this was something you had to do?
Yeah, so it really has started because of what has happened to me in my professional life. I always wanted to have a foundation. I just always thought it's going to be when I'm old and super rich, like Warren Buffett style, right? Everyone has this plan. And obviously, just like with the book, in my life, it has happened way earlier than I thought. Basically, I had some crazy adventures in business in Eastern Europe in the early 2000s with the first economic boom. We've built some businesses there. Then we've moved in 2012 to Nigeria, and we've built a big e-commerce group there. And my adventures in Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa were extreme, both on the positive side, because the group we've built ended up on New York Stock Exchange, but also on the negative side, I got myself into trouble with some corrupt government officials who at some point tried to take over the company by issuing a fake arrest warrant. Unless I pay money or give out the company, I'll end up in jail. One of those schemes that you unfortunately sometimes find in emerging markets where there's still a lot of corruption and sometimes things go crazy. And because I wrote the book, I wanted to make a statement that I'm not writing this book to make money on the book itself. I wanted to do this to share my story and for many other reasons, like sharing knowledge, sharing story, and so on. So I decided, okay, maybe this is the time to really put money into a foundation, not even start a foundation yet, because I wanted to make a statement. The money goes to a charity from the book and from any speaking engagement from the book, because it always like goes after once the book becomes a good seller. And when I started to do a research about how charity sector operates in the world, and I approached this problem like a typical investor would approach, because I was an investor for many years and a founder of companies. So I wanted to find a charity organization that operates in an efficient way, that creates sustainable change and so on. And oh my God, how wrong was I to learn about how broken the charity model is. And I basically decided if I'm ever going to put any of my money into charity, it's going to have to be in mine. When I was 19, I promised myself if I'm ever going to work in a corporation, it has to be mine. So I was the same stubborn guy that said, I'm probably going to have a micro foundation, but at least I'm going to run it the way I think it should be run. And that was the motivation. And then everything started from there. But this is why I made that decision, because I just found that the charity model is broken. I really am against how it's working now. We can talk about it a little bit more. But that was my beginning. So the book, and then the disappointment of how this really works.
I love that, because that is such the entrepreneur way to where it's like, this is broken, I can do it better. I'm gonna go do it better, and and you're now that means a lot more work, a lot more research, and a lot more involvement, but it's worth the
A lot more
price.
satisfaction.
Yeah, of knowing that it's done right and it's your money, so you want it to be invested properly, whether it's in a startup or in a foundation. So that's awesome. Okay, so what was so then what happened? Like, how did you research? How did you get this started? Because again, you're from Poland, so you're not starting a foundation in where you're from. What was the red tape? Tell us all the juicy information on what it was like.
Yeah, so I first had to come up with a strategy and really a manifesto, like, so who I want to help, which is a big problem. Oh my God, the amount of hatred I got when I said I'm helping this group, and the amount of voices saying you're a bad person because you're not helping that group or that group. It's crazy. I mean, I can't help anyone, right? But this is a story in itself. But I'm gonna get to that in a second. What I did notice is that there are a couple of problems with the current charity model. First of all, there's way too many too big organizations, because in business you kind of say the bigger you are, the more professional you can get, the more optimized you can be, and so on. I don't think that necessarily works in the charity model, because once you become too big, you become too detached from the real issue you were designed to solve. And the numbers say it all. Like, those big charity organizations, without naming, they can't really say that they have fixed a problem and it doesn't exist anymore. No, it's always ongoing for some reason. It's as if these pharmaceutical companies that never really cure you properly, right? So I think the charity foundation needs to be super small. When the founders are still engaged, they know exactly where every dollar goes to. When there's maybe an organization when you remembered everyone's names, maybe the world needs more small charities instead of one that solves all the problem. I am not, and I want to be clear with everyone listening and watching to us, I am not here to convince you to put money into my foundation. This is not why I'm here. I am here to convince you to do something on your own, maybe launch your own foundation or see what else you can do. That's what I believe in. Then you see that the charities are extremely effective to solve one-time huge problems. There was a hurricane, there was a bombing, there was a war, and people are displaced, and you have to take care of them. That's where the big organizations with logistics power work in an amazing way. But when you look at regions like the poorest parts of Nigeria, there's been trillions of dollars being pumped there in the last 60 years. It is clearly not working. So the current charity model is not designed to solve an ongoing problem. It can fix something. It can help you bring back to where it was, but it doesn't help you to strategically move from poverty out of a poverty. There's something wrong here, because if it was working, it should have been working already. And then I realized that, and this is the problem across the board. I come from the startup world, the so-called disruptors, the hackers, whatever you're going to call us, basically building software and technology that changes something and making some money on the way. There's just way too little technology in the way foundations are being run and operated. And you know why? Because the same reason why there's not enough technology in the government, because technology brings transparency. It brings a lot of problems on the way, we know that, but it also brings transparency. It's much easier to track if someone did something wrong when there's technology involved. You can't, if there's a software, if there's an archive on a hard drive, you can easily make many copies. You can't just burn those documents if you want to cover something. That's just like one example. So I figured let's run the organization like a startup. Let's have clear goals. Let's have return on investment. Let's do it on a very, very small scale, because then you still have that passion that is very needed, just like in a startup. And let's just try to build it from scratch without having to rely on those legacies of all the businesses. So I treated the foundation like a startup. And for example, the foundation is not buying any goods and sending them anywhere. The foundation is clearly sending money in a digital way, so we know exactly who the money goes to and where that money is spent on, because you can use mobile wallets instead of cash. And we know if someone is buying bread or Johnny Walker. And then we want the goods to be bought and purchased and services as well locally, because what you have to remember, if you're sending mosquito nets to a village, you might as well kill the local mosquito net producers. Like, you have to remember that there's always this double-edged sword when you're sending help. So I wanted to take this into account. And then I figured, okay, who do I want to help and how? And there were two things which I looked at. There's so many foundations being so loud and public about what they're doing. And it has got to a stage when they're only focusing on those shiny things, just like politicians. They want to have another bridge open so they can cut the rope before the elections. So the charities are focused on those tangible things that are shiny, that they can put on social media and get more money. But no one focuses on those long-term goals because they're not visible. You can't get more money by showing a project that takes for 15 years. And I figured I want to help smaller amount of people, but I want to help them as long as it's needed until I get them out of poverty. So we're not sponsoring 1,000 meals per day because the kids are still hungry and tomorrow the problem will be the same. I have to make the painful choice of choosing 5 kids or 3 kids or 10, depending on how much money I have. But I will be helping them for as long as it's needed until they get proper education, get work experience, they get hired, they become financially stable, and then maybe they can also help someone else. So I'm focusing on that ripple effect, which is related to the program where we don't really, pay for free meals or just build a house. We want to help those people in a form of sometimes even monthly payments or paying school fees, so they get to the point where they become financially independent, even if it's going to be just one person in a year. And then we had to find a proper geography and a proper demography. And on the geography side, I asked myself a question. Okay, first of all, I realized that I'm one of the luckiest guy on earth. We can talk about my book. Like, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. I would just be dead many times. And then I was also super lucky to be born in a post-communist Poland. Very humble beginnings, but I was never hungry. Lately I'm more hungry than I ever was because of my diet, and intermittent fasting. But my father was a soldier, my mother was a teacher. I got good education, and I was never hungry as a kid. And I'm super. And we had fridge, we had TV, and I had a roof on the above the head. So we're already super lucky. So then I wanted to turn around the situation. Like, where are living people who are screwed by life? They are screwed by pure luck where they were born into, which family they were born into. Like, who is more screwed in the world? And I guess I didn't have to look far, because there is a region in Nigeria where I used to live. I spent 4 years in Nigeria, called Borno, which is a state. There's a city called Maiduguri, and there are villages like Chibok, where first of all you have Boko Haram being very active, not for a couple years, but for 40 years. They've killed tens of thousands of people, way more than ISIS. No one ever reports that. It's a region when there's extreme way of Islam, extreme type of Islam, and the position of a woman in a radical Islam society is not the strongest one. Let's just put it this way. So if you are a girl there, you have a problem. You are being kidnapped by the Boko Haram terrorists. They're turning you into a slave or a wife. There's obviously no power, electricity. There's always super hot. If you're an orphan, a girl that lost her parents because they were killed by Boko Haram, you're living in this orphanage in this village. I mean, you'll probably check 10 out of 10 in terms of like how the world screwed you by where you were born. So I was like, let's help there. It's going to be super hard. Last month, 4 or 3 employees of United Nations and World Food Program were killed by terrorists there. I've never been there. I don't want to take that risk, but we have partners there and people we work with that are brave enough, or not really brave. They live there. They many times don't have a choice to move. So I was like, okay, that's where we're going to help. And then my fiance came, and she also said, well, you don't want to help girls just because they are more screwed than men because of the region, but you want to help girls because if you help girls, it's like solving 3 problems at once. That was the belief, because if you empower and educate a woman, she will also make sure that her kids are empowered and educated. So you're kind of, she's gonna pass that onto the next generation. You have to be educated well. The numbers say pretty clearly that when there's more women in companies, the companies are basically being run better. Same thing with the government. So more educated women, hopefully indirectly, will influence more women in business and government, which is, Nigeria is actually not that bad here. And there's so many women entrepreneurs, but in general, it helps a lot. And then if you educate and empower a woman to be able to fulfill her ambitions with work and so on, she will have a choice. She will not be forced to get married when she's 15 and have 10 kids. So indirectly, you're also solving the poverty issue, because many times people have 20 babies just because it's their retirement insurance. And you decrease the overpopulation problem in those areas by people just having, thinking more about contraception and having more kids and so on. So we decided, okay, this is going to be the region. We're going to help orphan girls. There's an orphanage, there's a school. We found it, which was happened later. But that's how the manifesto really came about, which is, this is why I want to help. This is how I want to help. And this is who I want to help. And to finish the story is that you're not going to find a social media page of our foundation. It's just a sub page on my website. If we do something, I sometimes post it on my Instagram or on my Twitter. We don't really show that much what we do, because I am aware of the self-fulfilling prophecy, which has damaged Africa business for many years. And I was fighting this. For many, many years, if someone said Africa, all you could think of is kids with big bellies, hunger, and so on. And while this is a big part of African problems, there's a huge part of Africa that you never hear of. I've been living in a city of 20 million people with airport, with skyscrapers. I've been living in Africa for 8 years now, more, and I've never been to a safari. I always focus on working in big cities, and I'm always pale because I never really into the sun. So there's just so much business happening in Africa and so much growth. Of course, inequalities are crazy, but everyone seems to be focused on the bad side because the charities are pushing the negative stereotypes. They are the ones posting those TV ads. You can help a kid a day for $7, blah, blah, blah. What they do indirectly, because I don't believe that they have intentionally bad approach here, is that they are scaring of business. And there's also a self-fulfilling prophecy that goes the other way. If you focus on the positive message, you're going to attract business. And when you attract business and money, you're actually going to help the environment, because let's not talk about how capitalism can destroy the economy and capitalism can destroy sophisticated societies and overdeveloped societies, because capitalism has turned into a monster with corporations being over governments. I'm talking about the capitalism at the healthiest form, the one that Adam Smith wrote about, the one where my old driver used to save the money from the salary I was paying him until he bought the car from me. So he became a taxi driver with his own company because he could now send me an invoice instead of getting a salary. And then after a year, he saved money again and he hired his brother. And now he has a company of 2 cars. And then another car, another brother. And then he ran out of brothers, so he hired cousins and so on. I'm talking about the healthy, real capitalism with real money that really solves people's problem and it brings them out of poverty. As romantic, as naive that may sound, I see this small and medium-sized capitalism really getting people out of poverty in my micro scale. So where was I? So I was we're not really pushing that how much we do, because I'm aware that talking too much about problems is stealing the attention of what's good is also happening, right?
Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, sorry. That was.
So I was gonna. So how long has the foundation been around, and what has it been like? Like, what has it meant? Clearly, love the mission. I love the mindset, the intention, the process that has gone into it. Completely agree across the board with everything that you said. I mean, I and you're very clear in stating that there is a purpose for the bigger foundation. They do some good work, but it's one of those things in the military. There's a drive why am I not remembering? There's a drive every year and they give you a pamphlet. And that pamphlet, it's very clear like how much money is actually donate, like used for the cause, and how much is over at the for the overhead. And it can be a little shocking. It's like they have so much overhead that the money is going to their overhead and not to the actual mission because they got too big. So there's such a especially in the nonprofit world. So I love your thinking around like it's small, it's hands-on, it's clear, like we see the difference that we're making and how we're making that. So what has that been like for you? Like what, obviously there's a personal reward to it. Has there been some heartbreaks?
We're at the very, very early stage. So the whole strategy is divided into stages. First, we need to make sure that the school is acting as a proper school. So we are able to find the talents. We want to help those kids, those girls who show that they're good at maths or good at science topics, because of my background, I am more effective in helping them become a great web developer or an accountant or a scientist, because I know universities that will take care of them. I know private schools that will take them and help them. And then I know companies that will then give them an internship. I wouldn't be able to help you if you want to be a philosopher or a journalist. So we are focusing on those kids, those girls who will show that they're very good at maths and they are talented. But in order to be able to filter them out, you need to have a proper school that first teaches them the proper way. So when I said we found this orphanage school, what I mean is that there was just a piece of land, even without walls and a roof. So the first stage was building walls and roof. The first building was built, and now we're building the second one. So the first money, which is like $10,000, was deployed, was like 3 months ago, and now we've sent another tranche. So because the book, we started selling the book in January or February this year, so just very beginning. So we haven't really sold that many of those books. I'm putting some additional money there just to start. Once we're done with the buildings, then we're going to put furniture into place, because the girls were sitting literally on the ground, and there was like a blackboard being pushed on a fence that separates one plot of land to the other. That was the school. So once you have building and furniture and toilets, then third step would be books. We've already deployed some books, but then they need more books, and they need laptops. Make sure that they're not stolen. Make sure they are charged every day, because just because you have a laptop doesn't mean you can use it, because you need the electricity. So we're going to have to secure the power, most likely some solar panels and so on. And then you have to make sure that this operates properly for a year. And that year you need to find those talents. And that's where the partnership with some private schools, boarding schools that we have in Nigeria, that will take the 13-year-old kid or 10-year-old girl to a boarding school and allow her to mingle with normal kids, so she's not that alienated because of where she comes from. There's also going to be psychologist support and so on. But this is like in a year or two from now, because once we take care of a girl and send her to a boarding school, that's when the cost starts become serious. Because these are very good schools. You want to send her to a good school that is safety, good quality, and so on. And a private education in Nigeria is extremely expensive. I'm talking about $15,000 plus per kid per year. So if you want to take a kid to a boarding school, you want to make sure you will afford at least 3 years ahead. So what's happening now is preparing the foundations. I mean, let's have the building, let's have the furniture, let's have the laptop. Like, even if we at some point we stop because we say we have no more money, etc., at least this will stay. But then we have a year up to 2 years to collect enough money to be able to send a kid to this boarding school for at least 3 years, and know that, okay, the money is secured. Even if we go bankrupt, she will be able to finish the school. And depending on how much money we will have at the end of 2021, we will know how big is the first batch of those girls. We will know if our strategy is even working, and so on. Now we're back with basics. Like the second building is literally being built now. I think I posted a photo of first bricks being put on top of each other yesterday.
Wow. So it's a very long-term commitment to getting the return on investment that you're looking for?
I think, the return on investment, when we call it, like, because we want to call it in a very productive ways, right, is going to be when there will be a woman which is around 22, 23 years old, that has probably a senior at some kind of a university in Nigeria or in Poland or anywhere in Europe. We already have a university in Poland that is willing to teach them for half of the fees. We will just have to take care of the other half. That has finished her internship and she just got a job, and hopefully she's thankful that she was extremely lucky that we found her, or she found us, and she's gonna help back. She's gonna give back to her community in any way. It doesn't have to be us, but give back to the community. When we talk about long-term strategy, I do believe that the most efficient way to develop a region is where you have repats coming back to your country. So every poor country in the world has tens of thousands, if not millions, of people living in the States, in Switzerland, in Germany, in other rich European countries, because they ran away and they went to search for money. They are having those easy jobs, sorry, not easy jobs, simple jobs, but very, very hard. They're doing the dishes, they're cleaning and so on, and they're sending half of their money to their families to support them, right? And these people, many of those people get educated, they make their careers, they do something amazing, and they can at some point come back to their countries of origin. And they are not only bringing back the money, because like we already discussed, there's been way too money pushed into Africa without any result, but they're bringing the money with a proper oversight, and it's their own money, and it's their passion, because they want to go back to the country of their origin and grow it. And that's how I saw what happens to Poland. My parents, my father was a soldier, my mom was a teacher, but every holidays, when they had 2 months of vacation, public vacation, they would go to Germany. My father was a gardener and my mom was cleaning the dishes in a restaurant. But that's how, we have built our first house in Poland. That's how they built their first car. And that's how my mom started a company, because of everything that she learned while she was doing those other stuff and those connections she has built in the richer country. And again, I know it has been working on a micro scale, because I've seen this working in Poland in the 90s when I was a kid. And I try to replicate what I've seen that has been working on my own example.
Yeah, well, I love that. And I think there's there's a lot of people need to get the book.
Yeah.
One, because it's an amazing book and story. Two, because it supports a great cause. And, they need to broaden their perspective. I mean, what I love the conversation that we're having, the story that you're sharing, is that it's a perspective that a lot of people just don't understand, and it really frustrates me. And, having traveled the world and, my time in the Marine Corps, and even how the military engages with, so when I was in Europe, I was part of the Marine Forces Europe and Africa, and our engagement with the African nations, and in developing their militaries, but it goes so much deeper than that. It's in empowering them to be able to be everything that they want to be, that they see themselves as the potential of being. And, emerging markets are amazing because of that, because they have so much to offer. What I love in your book is that you talk about how you can't come with the American mindset, European mindset into an emerging market and think that that's what's going to work. You need to understand the people that are there. You need to see them for what, who they are, what they have to offer, what they want, how they operate, and then, empower them. And that's what you're doing in your foundation, like empowering the young ladies, the girls that are, like you said, not because they're born in, not, like you were saying, 10 out of 10, you're born in the absolute worst place you can be, does not mean you don't have the possibility, the potential to be incredible and amazing and have an impact in the world. It's in believing in every human being has that, instead of being judgmental or having a limited mindset because of what you see in the media or on the news, and you don't research, you don't dig deeper, you don't get to know, those people. I mean, we see it, we see on social media. It's just like, if you get a friend request for somebody from India, somebody from Nigeria, or somebody from, whatever country, and everybody's going to think the worst, like that you don't have the value
But
of
yeah,
making that
yeah,
connection, and you don't have the
yeah,
intelligence, the knowledge, and the ability to be a great contact. And
yeah,
it's frustrating, and because it's what's sent out into
yeah,
the world, instead of the good messaging of the value of everyone, no matter where they happen to be.
yeah, yeah. And our mind operates using shortcuts and stereotypes, and this is many times a big problem for people that come from those regions, because this is also the reason why I actually don't like when someone is asking me where you're from, because I already know what's happening. They do this unintentionally, like everyone's asking like, where are you from? But you're asking where you're from because you want to link me with the image of the region that you already have in your head. You're going to link me with the experience of the people from that region that you have already had, and it works both ways. It's a double-edged sword. And I was a teenager from Poland, and I was traveling many times to Germany. There couldn't be a bigger difference between Poland and Germany in the 90s, I think, or 80s, 70s maybe as well, because Germany was capitalistic, the West Germany, a rich country. Poland was communist bloc, and so on. And I could see how, and I'm speaking very well. I used to speak very well German because of my family is German partially. And I would speak German, and then when someone would think that I'm German, and the moment someone asked me where you're from, I would say I'm actually Polish. You could see the way their perception of me immediately changes. I was like, oh, because you're this kind of worst type, and that always hurt me to that extent that I was actually, what's the word? And I was not shy is not the word. I was afraid to say where I'm
Yeah,
really from, because I was afraid of my self-value, and I could see this working the opposite way when I was living in Nigeria, and I could really relate to stories of my friends telling me how they are dealing with either racism or xenophobia because of their accent or skin color, or passport. Because I was like, I've been there. I mean, you may think that I'm this privileged. I am a privileged white boy, right? Especially in Africa, because I know that many people have much harder. But I tasted a little bit of that in unfairness because of that Eastern-Western bloc. It's not even comparable to what other people are going through, but I had a taste of it, and I guess
yeah.
it allowed me to maybe
Have more
relate to this
empathy,
a little
yeah,
bit
and have
more,
more
a little
empathy
bit
and
more empathy.
compassion,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
and and the thing is, it's not because you did not you did experience the corruption, you did experience that throughout your travels and working in Nigeria and the different countries, but you can't, what I love about the book, and who you are as a person, is like, you can't choose that and say, oh, that just confirms what everybody says. It's like, okay, yes, it exists, it's there, and it's causing a lot of trouble. Like, it's hurting so many people that it's like that. And I'm still going to stay here, I'm still going to work through it, and I'm still going to stay engaged. And that definitely says a lot about you. And there are people that would quit, that would give up, that would say, throw their hands up and say, well, they get what they deserve, and they're not doing anything
yeah,
about it, so why should I?
yeah. Though there were so many moments when I was like, okay, I'm done with it. And back then I wouldn't give up, not because I had this higher goal in me or motivation. No, I wouldn't give up because, one, I was extremely stubborn, and two, I was too afraid of admitting to a failure. It might be a very dangerous thing to have, that you can never give up, because you're afraid of admitting to a failure. Let's imagine you're an investor and you have this stocks that is tanking. The company is going bankrupt, but you just don't want to sell it because it's going to be admitting failure and until it's too late. But it can also be a very powerful motivator to not to do that. It's a double-edged sword again. But I was definitely stubborn, and I'm happy now that now it's been almost 9 years now in sub-Saharan Africa and businesses. And if I gave up after the first problem that I had, then I couldn't be here share my story. So in a way you are. I mean, that's gonna sound so cheesy, but in a way, you are thankful for the problems that happened to you because they didn't kill you; they made you stronger. This doesn't get cheesier than that, but it actually is the way to look at the past. That's is the right way, I think.
I also appreciate, and that's something that comes out in your book. I appreciate your self-awareness because you know, as you're describing the situation in yourself in the book, it's kind of like, this guy, you know, you get some opinions, you know, you're very honest.
Yeah.
Like this guy's is a dick or whatever. He's conceited. He's this, he's that. And but you're very, and there's a lot of people who are told the story differently to make themselves look better. But, the honesty, and even your honesty right now, what you said is like, hey, it's not because I had a higher purpose. It's like I was stubborn and, I didn't want to admit defeat. And, and those are qualities, that is a quality that's completely double-edged sword. And like I was saying, like I'm in the exact same way. And, it can take you to a really dark place because you're hanging on, and what you should be doing is letting go and just admitting, okay, I did not have what it took to do this. And, but just having the personality of, well, I'm going to try it again. And let's hope I'm better at it next time. And that's clearly, again, in your story, in your book, that comes really through. And that's why I know, like in the foundation, if it doesn't work out, you'll find another way. Like, I feel like this for the rest of your life, you're going to be invested in this.
I do want this to be a side project, which is always happening because it's so cool. It's satisfaction on a level that is totally different than anything else that I was doing, and that's it. I mean, and period, right? It's just a totally different level of satisfaction to see that this is growing, and to be able to see that the lessons I have had from a startup world can be applied into a charity model. So do you see the transfer of technology that is changing something better? And I hope that the foundation will prevail. And the best KPI to measure the success or failure of this foundation is how many other foundations just like me will be started, and by people I will affect thanks to a platform like this, or maybe by people that the foundation has helped in the first place.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Well, before we get into playing the first time lightning round, I'm gonna shift gear because I feel like I could ask you so many more questions and talk to you about so many different things. So I have taken a lot of your time already. So let's how can people get in touch with you and find the information on the foundation on your website?
Yes. So my name is too hard to pronounce. No one's going to remember the website URL, but I have a website which is the same as the title of my book, which is chasingblackunicorns.com, which is easy to remember, chasingblackunicorns.com. And there's everything about me, about the book, my social media handles. There's the section of the site which talks about the foundation. It's like one-stop shop for everything about my activity and our team.
All right. Well, and I'm gonna pitch it, like, get the book. It's supporting an awesome foundation, but you're gonna enjoy it. Like it's I don't want to say it's like it's not like a James Bond movie, but it's like it's fast moving. Like it's a fast paced, story. And
so what we did is we wanted to combine two genres of books. it's a business book and it's also a biography. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I'm 34 and I did write a biography, but bear with me. I'm not such a, I do have some stories. So what we did is we divided, and I had a great editor, great publisher that helped me do this in such a way. We divided the story into 14 or 17 chapters, the book into chapters, depending on the language version. And then every chapter tells a story that is supposed to make you laugh, entertain you, maybe get you scared, get you a little bit nostalgic. And from what you're saying, it worked. But then once I have your attention, that's when I want to give you some knowledge and insights from my learnings. And this is, if you think about it, this is how comedians work. This is stand-up comedy. I'm talking some bullshit stories. I'm giving you some jokes. I'm talking about something totally unrelated, but then suddenly I make you laugh, and then I make you think, and then I tell you what my real message was about.
Yeah, so I definitely picked up all of that. And again, being an entrepreneur, a lot of it on the different contexts, it's like, yeah, I've had those lessons, I've had that lesson, not the same way. And that's what's really great about hearing the story. And, I do a lot of research on emerging markets. So like hearing, the perspective of being on the ground and doing that and working with a very large company who's, aiming to establish footing there, and then, putting in so much work, and then having somebody, not that I want to give all the takeaways of your book, but working and having the potential of being pushed out, and it's just like, holy cow, and it's the fact that you are, I'm 43, you are so young, this happened to you, in such a rapid sequence, and at the same time you kind of have this, wow, bad boy thing going on. So it's very get the book. Just really, it's wild and crazy that it's all true and it happened. All right, so let's go ahead and let's play the first time lightning round. So the way it works, I'm going to ask you 10 different first time options. If it's something you've done before, you say up. So it's similar to being on the 365 First Challenge app. Something you've never done, not interested, then it's left. Something you've never done, would like to do and add to your list, then we go right.
Okay, so right. Up, I did, left, never done, right, I want to do. Okay.
Yeah.
And I should say or just make a gesture? You
can say it. So, because when this goes onto the audio podcast, it helps when people say it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So make maple syrup or visit a maple house?
Wait a second. I have to understand, but this is a choice. So if I say make maple syrup, I should say what? Or just choose one?
Oh, so it's right, one or the other, but it's either you've done it before, like you've been to a maple house, you've made like you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, never done, don't want it, so left.
Really? You never, maple houses are really great. You just don't like maple syrup?
Maple syrup is like, I've read those healthy books, and it's just like, it's like poison, stay out of it, maple syrup. Like,
what? The real, well, yeah, it's packed full of sugar, but it's all natural. It comes out of a tree. It's sap of a tree, of maple trees.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I read the wrong books. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then you're right. I want to do this. Okay.
I'm French Canadian, so we go down with our maple syrup.
Canadians. Yes. Well, let's not go that road. Yeah. I love maples. I love your flag. Syrup is what I have an issue with.
All right. Well, if you're ever in Canada in the wintertime, it's an experience worth having to go to a maple house, and they do big breakfast and they make the maple right there. And then they come out and they on the snow banks, and you can roll, because there's all kind of maple candy, and you can roll like it's like Laffy Taffy maple. It's not.
I'm already getting hungry.
Oh yeah, with your fasting, I'm right there with you. Okay, moving on. Next one. Play craps.
Never done this, would love to try it. So right.
Would love to try it. All right. Write a song.
Never done this, don't want to do this. I'm not a talent. The word is not ready for my songs, for my dancing, nothing like that.
So
or
not on the
singing.
okay. So not on that the musical artistic side.
Yeah.
All right. Windsurfing.
Never done this. Don't want to try it. But fun fact here: I do many boarding sports. I do snowboarding and surfing and skateboarding. I just don't like windsurfing or kite surfing because you have to rely and negotiate too much with the wind and the nature. I feel like surfing gives you more freedom. So just wanted to add the comment here. I'm not that boring, so because I know it's a fun sport.
All right. Well, you've given it a lot of thought. I would just, sometimes it's good to just try to go against our own thinking to validate or confirm.
I should have though. You're right, because that's I think the only board sport surfs. I mean, the thing that you stand on a board that I haven't tried because I've done many of them. Maybe I should. Yeah.
Yeah. Although I would recommend kite surfing over windsurfing.
Okay.
But that's because you seem also like the type who like windsurfing, it takes you a while to take off. Kite surfing, and there's wind, you are taking off.
You go. You go.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Plant and grow a garden.
Yes, I definitely want to try it right when I'm 70. Yeah.
Invest in gold.
Up. Doing this, everyone should have some more stable asset because it's not that stable. Yeah.
Okay. Go camping.
Up. Used to do it, then did less of it, and now the older I get, the more I feel like I need to be more in the nature. So I'm definitely becoming a camping guy again.
Do you remember your first time that you went camping?
Well, yeah, I think I was like 11. I went without my parents, just with another kids. Spend the night in the forest, put in your own tent. Cool memories. Not only with the camping itself, but also, first gear, first kiss, stuff like this. It's super heartwarming.
It was quite the event. Okay. Get a Thai massage.
Oh yeah, I mean, every 2 weeks. It's super important for me, health reasons. Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone should do it. The strong deep tissue massage helps your lymphatic system, helps you stay healthy longer.
Okay. Next one. Eat Indian food.
Oh, my favorite cuisine is Indian cuisine. Every day, not every day, every week at least. Although it's not the caloric wise, it's a lot of calories in there, but it's a good healthy cuisine, and the spices are very, very healthy as well.
Yeah, very tasty. Do you remember the first time you had it?
Oh yeah, I was actually old. First time I was 20 something in Poland, and I remember like, oh my god, I never knew that meat can have so many colors, because you had the curcuma, you had the Thai, yellow meat, orange meat. I was like, wow, I remember that.
The first time I had Indian food was in Germany, which is a weird place to have your first Indian food, but that was that. Okay, I ride a mountain bike.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite sports, mountain bike. So
Mountain biking. All right, awesome. All right, well, that concludes the first time lightning round. The final question is, how have you been making the best out of the current situation with the pandemic?
I think I'm extremely lucky again, because what I do has not really impacted in the way I work. I was working remotely anyway, having a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of emails, and so on. So not much really has changed for me. So I'm not an expert in telling you this is how I dealt with coronavirus and the lockdown situation, because I was an extremely lucky guy that ended up in a sector where it hasn't really affected us. And I'm telling this with a lot of humility, that I was just super lucky bastard. That I one of my businesses in e-commerce, and we actually, it's so bad to say about this because people are losing their jobs around us, and there are many bankruptcies, but actually our sector is one of the few that is growing.
Yeah.
So again, lucky. I don't know why, but I'm lucky again.
And it's one of those things. It's like you feel for everyone what they're going through, but you have to celebrate. It's like, hey, and there's whole new industries coming out because of COVID. Like
Yeah.
entrepreneurs are going to do what entrepreneurs got to do, and you might not survive in your current business, but that doesn't mean you're not going to start the next one that's going to be best fitting for what the future holds. And it's kind of a survival of the fittest, as well as
Yeah.
times change, and you have to shift with the changing times. This was a big
Yeah.
unknown
Uh,
change.
it's changed so much. I guess you gotta. I mean, it's easy to always advise to someone because I know the hardships many people are going through. I mean, I had my share of hardships as well. You will know that from the book. But you gotta embrace the challenges, celebrate the winnings, and enjoy it while it lasts. Enjoy the good things while they last, because if you are always active and never give up, both the good things and the bad things don't last, because you just move from one to another.
Wow, I love that. So we're going to end on that note, because that is a great way to end things. So thank you, Marek, for spending some time with me and sharing all your stories and some wisdom and information. I really appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. I don't even know when the time has passed. It's always a good indicator of a good chat.
Awesome.